So the most important topic in Bitcoin for everyone, for developers, for technical users, for non-technical users, is security. And Bitcoin is money. So if you lose your money or your money gets stolen, that is your biggest concern, right? Now with Bitcoin, you are concerned with the seed and the private keys that are generated from your seed. And if an attacker can view or access the seed or the private key associated with a particular address, the attacker can move your Bitcoin to an address they control and you've lost your Bitcoin. Similarly, if you lose access to the seed or the private key associated with an address, then your funds are locked up forever, you can't move them, and you've effectively lost them. So private key management or seed management is the most important thing. There have been products available for a number of years now, dating back to around 2013, called hardware wallets or hardware signers. The difference in terminology, typically they're known as hardware wallets, but the terminology doesn't work very well, because with an actual physical wallet, I can literally pull a coin or some cash out of it, and it actually stores the money, right? It stores physical money. With devices like Trezor, like Ledger, like Cold Card, what they do is they store the seed and the private key, which allows you to move your Bitcoin, because when requested, they can generate the digital signature that's required to move your Bitcoin, and using the private key that is stored on the device. Okay. And why would you use one of these devices rather than just store your seed or your private key on a laptop or a desktop computer? Well, on a laptop, you have a lot of applications either running or installed, and you only need one vulnerability in one of them for an attacker to potentially gain access to your machine and be able to search through the file system on that machine for any Bitcoin private keys or Bitcoin seeds. Okay, so the attack surface of a laptop or a desktop computer, especially if you're quite laissez-faire with what you install on it, very experimental with the software you install on it, has a large attack surface. And so what these devices do is they reduce the scope to purely storing seeds and private keys and generating digital signatures associated with those private keys when requested, right? So you construct the transaction, say on your laptop, and then you request the required digital signature from the hardware signer. The hardware signer does not know about the latest block on the blockchain. It doesn't know about the peer-to-peer network. It doesn't know pretty much anything about Bitcoin other than the seed and the private key and generating digital signatures. Okay, so really important product. And my recommendation, I think the majority recommendation in the ecosystem, is the first step when you are starting to hold a significant amount of Bitcoin, a significant amount of your net worth in Bitcoin, is to buy one of these devices and store the seed and the private key on these devices, they give you like a small card where you can write down 12 words or 24 words. That's called the mnemonic, and that's like your backup for your seed. So you need to store that securely. As I said earlier, if an attacker sees that, they can move your Bitcoin from an address you own to an address they own. You've lost your Bitcoin. Okay, so 2 parts they'll send you. They'll send you the physical device. Just show them on the screen again. Ledger, Cold Card, and Trezor. And yeah, they'll send you the device and they'll send you a card to write down 12 words or 24 words. So that is definitely the first step once you start getting serious about Bitcoin. There are other products and manufacturers. Blockstream has Jade that sounds really good. I don't actually have one yet. Hopefully I will do soon. But yeah, definitely a solid first step. Now, you may in future want to reduce the single point of failure of only having a single device and a single backup, and start using multi-signature or threshold signature. And there is work in this direction to make this a lot friendlier from a user experience perspective, and to get as many of these device manufacturers supporting multi-signature and threshold signature as possible. So ideally, an attacker wouldn't just need to get access to one of your devices and get through the PIN protection on one of those devices, or gain access to that mnemonic that you've stored on a card or metal or whatever. Ideally, there would be multiple devices or multiple backups that the attacker would need to gain access to be able to steal your Bitcoin. It is more cumbersome for you because obviously when you want to move your Bitcoin, you need to then have multiple devices and produce multiple signatures to construct that valid multi-signature or threshold signature transaction. But from a security perspective, it's certainly an improvement. But I would say that's a lot further down the line. I think you need to be really, really comfortable with a single device, with a single backup. Just get that mentally clear in your mind around what you're using the device for, what the backup's for. Hopefully I've done a decent job of explaining those 2 things in this video. But yeah, I'd get really comfortable with just using one device first, and then when you're really comfortable with that, then maybe consider using multi-signature, like a 3 of 3 or a 4 of 4 or 5 of 5, or a threshold signature, 2 of 3 or 3 of 4 or 3 of 5 type thing, where you only need a subset of the devices to be able to move the Bitcoin. So yeah, that is an introduction to hardware signers. Hopefully hardware signers will be the terminology, but it's very likely hardware wallets will still stubbornly be thrown around as a description for these devices. But regardless of that terminology, the important thing is the seed, it's the words, it's 12 words, 24 words, and it's the private keys. And these devices will help you in your mission to keep a hold of your Bitcoin, not have your Bitcoin stolen, and not lose access to your Bitcoin. Just as important. If you lose access to your Bitcoin, you're down that Bitcoin, and it's the equivalent of you losing your Bitcoin to a thief or an attacker. So both aspects are really, really important.